Good morning, UBBOptionMillionaires.com. It is Cinco de Mayo 2014. It's a Monday, and stock futures are celebrating with lower prices. Stock futures have been pulling back since the European markets opened. This was the high on Friday when we had the jobs report come out, pulled back, and then look at the action we have here overnight, where we're just bouncing off the lows here. And if you look from a longer term perspective here, so I always like to bring up it, the videos that I do, but just look at the action for the last 6 months. Once we broke above, we tried to break above this 184 level at the start of the year, pulled back to 173, and then rallied to record levels. And we've been pretty much channeling here. Very frustrating pattern if you're trading out of the money stock options, because just when you think your call options are looking good, pulls back, and then just when you think your put options are looking good, we rally to record highs, and then we pull back and rally to just about record highs as we did on Friday. And it looks like we're going to pull back to at least this 187 level. Even if we pull back to this 184 level, and as you saw it back at the start of April, we could even pull below it a little bit before rocketing higher. I'd even argue that this 181 level that goes back to the Abenomics low still could act as support, and we could still vault to new record levels, which is where I think the market's going to head into middle and end of 2014. But if we do break down below this trend line, and I think this is going to be a spot to watch, we get down to 173, this will act as the neckline of a longer-term topping pattern that would imply a significant downside from current levels. So it's just something to keep in mind. Even though I don't think it's going to happen, you gotta watch it. Gotta watch. What I think is going to happen, we're going to bounce briefly off this level, possibly head down to 184, and then vault in the next month and a half or two to record levels 190, 195, then ultimately 200 SPY. Pretty wild. We do have earnings reports coming out this week. I just want to cover a couple individual stocks, and then we'll go to some earnings reports. I'm not sure what I'm going to trade, but there's certainly some optionable ideas out there for solar, and we have PRICELINE earnings report coming out at the end of the week, just to name a few, Disney. But let's look at the VIX, tracked by VXX, and you just look from a long-term perspective. The chart really means nothing on this other than, hello, your money is gone. But if you look at the recent action, has held above that $40 area. We closed right at it on Friday. So the first time we hit it at the start of this year, this is split adjusted, obviously, because if it wasn't split adjusted, we'd be at zero. So anyway, you look back in January, I think we briefly broke below it. We did got 39.85 in January, and then look at the rally we had up to about 55. Let's pull some of these lines out because they really don't serve us any good here. So we rallied and we kind of calmed down a little bit, pulled back to that 40 level again, rallied, and now we're back to that 40 level once again. So is this the time when it just collapses? And I don't know. It's just something to keep an eye on. It doesn't track the VIX perfectly, but if you look at the VIX on Friday, got smacked down late in the session. There were some really big spikes, certainly at the start of the day when the market started to pull back a little bit. But again, we're at depressed levels. I mean, the VIX was down 2.5% on Friday. It doesn't imply a marketplace where people are really scared about downside. And as I pointed out in an article I did for the VIX a couple of years ago, I mean, the VIX doesn't 100% imply negative stock prices. It just implies volatility or expected move being greater than what is normally expected. And the greater that expectation is, the higher the VIX is. So if people are actually expecting a 5% move to the upside for stocks, guess what? People are going to be trading out of the money stock options and paying more for those, which would imply a higher VIX. And doesn't always, everybody talks about the VIX as being the fear indicator. It could be a euphoric indicator as well. So let's move into some earnings. Something else I want to point out with bond market, we hit 112.71. I think we were up at almost 113 on Friday. Yeah, we briefly broke over. Just amazing move considering. And if you look at this trend up over the last 5 trading days, look at that. I mean, just kind of cancel out the spikes and the droops. The fact it's just been like a straight line up. Pretty amazing. Considering that the Federal Reserve came out last week and said they're going to continue to taper, people are buying bonds. Somebody's buying them. And the fact that we've broken out of this channel here to the upside, very bullish. And so if bonds are being bought, it's usually stocks that take the hit, right? Although we've seen it over the last year and a half where bonds and stocks seemingly both catch a bid. Everything goes up. In this weird environment we're in where central banks globally are just printing money, and that money has to go somewhere. We have VNL reporting earnings after the bell today. It's a REIT. It's a real estate investment trust, just like Simon Property Group, which reported earnings, I think, last week. Anyway, in a investment world searching for yield, these REITs offer some return aside from their equity. They offer dividends, and we're seeing some of these stocks like IBM, in spite of the pullback. Look at IBM off its lows from its earnings report, looking really sharp. But let's look at some other stocks that are reporting earnings this week. FEYE, which reports earnings after the bell tomorrow. Look at it right at support here. This is a very compelling possible long trade here. I would look maybe for the 45 to 47.50 calls, and I'll let you know in the chat room at Option Millionaires if I do indeed get them. First Solar as well. First Solar is a beautiful breakout. This is a bull flag off the March spike to the upside. It's been consolidating, and I think it's going to, yeah. We're at 68. I could easily see it going over 70, 75. Another play on this for earnings after the bell tomorrow for First Solar would be SolarCity. Ding, 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 which has been really pulling back off its record levels. It's been bouncing off the $50 level. It's at 55. So if we do indeed get First Solar beat and the stock rallies, I would expect SolarCity to go be a, what people like to call a sympathy. Oh, the sympathy trade. I got that one. And we have Disney after the bell. I love this one for upside. The options are pretty cheap. I wouldn't say this so much as a bull flag, but it's been consolidating here. So I'd look for a move to 82.50. The options are very inexpensive here for a trade for a possible upside. Groupon, just bringing this up, it's pretty much a penny stock now. It broke through support here in the pull-up. That's why I like to keep my support resistant line. Broke through to the downside. It's just kind of meandering here. So until it starts to head out back over $10, we're just going to forget about it. Papa John's. I've never had their pizza, but you can see it's been pulling back after just a complete, tremendously dynamic rally to the upside. And the weekly chart, it's been down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight weeks. Papa John has been lower. Papa. I'm sure the guy's a gazillionaire. It doesn't really matter. Doesn't really care about the stock too much. Anyway, it broke through support here. So the next level of support is going to be actually pretty much where it bounced from there. Let me see if I'll pull it up another time, but I wouldn't trade this. Just figured I'd bring it up. Earnings are coming out. We have PB, which is Potbelly, reports earnings after the bell on Tuesday. This is a heavily shorted stock, just IPO'd recently. Some of the sandwich shops just not doing so well, like Quiznos. It seems like one dies, another one just pops up, a brand new one. So Potbelly, never had one of the sandwiches. I don't know anything about the company. Just the chart looks awful. Heavily shorted. But again, don't rule anything out. You see this big spike here back at the end of April. And if you look back, the earnings report in February, look at that disaster. It's going to be like the Weight Watchers report we had last week, where Weight Watchers rallied over 20%. That would be more what I'd be looking for earnings after the bell on Tuesday. So I might get into these. Just the fact it's so beaten down. So beaten down. We have earnings from King Digital Entertainment. It looks like about, 10, 12 analysts came out this past weekend. All went out to dinner and just decided to upgrade the stock and create a price target all at the same time. Because this morning we have, nothing short of 10 analyst opinions on the stock, all talking about higher prices. So we'll see if they're right. Wednesday before the bell, we have after the bell, Zillow, which is broken out of a beautiful wedge to the upside. Above support, looks really bullish here. We have C-Trip reporting earnings. Let's see if we can get this ticker right. There we go, C-Trip. I don't know if I'm going to trade it. But if you look, looks like it's bottomed here, so I wouldn't expect it to drop to 40. I'd almost expect it to head back up to this $55 range for C-Trip. And then before the bell on Thursday, we have PRICELINE. PRICELINE looks very bearish, but if it can break above this resistance line here, The options are going to be way out of control as far as price is concerned, so I probably won't get into them. And we have after the bell, we have Symantec. Symantec is at a $20 stock. Briefly dipped back in March, but looks poised for a little bit of upside there. We have Jamba Juice. Jamba Juice is an $11 stock. Pretty boring. They just sell juiced products, namely vegetables and some fruits. Ooh, exciting. And then we have Mankind, which is a $6 stock, and I try not to trade options. Also, UNXL, another $6 stock, which is actually breaking to lows here. And if you look at I have lines crisscrossing all over the place. So pull up a 1 year chart, and you see it's just broken down. I'll pull up the studies here. Yeah, significantly oversold. We'll see what happens with UNXL. If they finally ship any product. And then we have, let's pull up some charts here. DDD, which is another one at support, bouncing off. I love this one for a really sharp move to the upside. I'll let you know if I get into any calls this week. Netflix as well, although could be putting in some sort of a head and shoulders topping pattern. We have Amazon, which broke through support recently, bounced just like it did back at the start of April. It's bouncing here. I love this company, love this stock, but you can't look at this chart and say to yourself, wow, this is bullish. You can't, because now we're bouncing here just like we did there, and we could see another gap to the downside to the 270 level. So, hey, you know what? You got to trade what you see. All right, UPBOptionMillionaires.com. It's the start of the week. It is Cinco de Mayo. Don't have too much cerveza today. Keep your eyes focused. It's going to be an exciting week. I can just feel it. Goodbye.